Hello, in this video we'll make use of the Streamlit library to make a simple chat interface with the Strands agents. Okay, let's get started. So this is the requirements file and I'm adding the Streamlit package at the bottom here. So I'm also putting the version here, so we can use pip install to actually install the packages from this requirements file. I've already installed it and I've also activated my virtual environment. So if required, you can install it with pip install -r requirements command like this. Okay, now let's go to the app.py file, and here we can just try to import the Streamlit package and see if it works. st, and I'm just going to add the title widget, so I'll be just naming it Strands app, and after that we can just try to run this and see Streamlit run app.py. So it's appearing here. We got the title widget like we typed. Let's go back, and now we'll be adding one more widget. We'll be adding the chat input box, st.chat input, and we can put some placeholder text inside this. So let's say the placeholder is going to be how can I help you. Okay, save this and go to the browser, and I can just click on this always rerun, so that anytime I make a change to the code, the change will appear here instantly. We got the box here, we got the text box, the input box, on which we can actually type hi, how are you. So nothing is going to happen yet, right? Okay, we'll go back to the code and write some more logic. We will actually try to capture this input with a variable. Let's say prompt is equal to this. Okay, so whatever we type here will be caught in the prompt, and if you'd like to print it, we can always print it like this, print prompt. Okay, let's go and type something, hi, how are you. It will only get assigned to the variable when I press enter here, or I can just click on this button, the message send button, hi, how are you. Okay, now we get this in the print on the terminal because we are actually printing the prompt. So whatever we typed inside the text box is actually getting printed here. Now instead of printing it in the terminal, I'll just remove this, and I'll be printing it on the chat window itself, for which I'll be using with st.chat message. With the chat message, I can put the role. The role is going to be user because the user is typing the message, right? So we can print it back as the user. And what we'd like to print, we can put something like st.markdown. So it also supports any markdown text. Okay, so st.markdown, just the prompt. So whatever prompt is received, that will go back. Okay, save, and let's go here. Now since we didn't type anything, it's none by default, right? So that is why it is saying none. So let me just type hi, how are you, and this prompt is going to appear here, appear there as it is. So hi, how are you, we just typed, and whatever was there was actually duplicated here. Now since it is already in markdown here, right? So st.markdown, I can also put some markdown test. So let's say hi, and bold hi, 2 stars in markdown, how are you. So now the word hi, okay, hi, right? So instead of putting hi again, I'll just make how in bold. Okay, so hi, how are you, the word how should appear in bold now. Yeah, so this is in bold. So the markdown rendering is working, and we have this icon which represents the user. What's next? We have another type of message, which is the assistant message, which is kind of a response message that comes back from the AI model, right? For which we'll be using the same block, but the role is going to be different. So the same thing, and here the role is going to be assistant. So save this and go back, and if you see, the icon is different, right? So we didn't type anything, that is why it is taking none. Test message. So we get the same message because we are only using the prompt in both the places, and this is the user icon, this is your assistant icon. We got the same message back. But what usually happens, we need to get the response, and we just need to put the response back, right? For which we need to pass the prompt to the agent. In this case we are using Strands agent, and the agent will have the LLM inside that. First let's go ahead and import the Strands agent. We can do something like from Strands import agent. Okay, so this is going to import the agent class, and we just need to create an object. Agent is equal to agent. We can put the model as Nova Micro, so that's going to be us.amazon dot nova hyphen micro hyphen v1 and colon 0, and I'm going to put the callback handler as none. So some of these concepts are already discussed in a different video in this playlist, so you can have a look at that to get more understanding. So callback handler is equal to none. Now this agent is going to be initialized, and it will actually talk to the AWS API, right, for which the AWS Bedrock API, for which we need to initialize the variables, because the AWS credentials are stored in the .env file, for which we can just import the load.env method from .env import load.env, and we just need to run it load.env. So all the variables, whatever sensitive secrets etc that we have for AWS, even the configuration will come from that. So we are loading it, and so far no error, right? What's next? We need to pass the prompt to this agent, right, instead of just printing the prompt. So here what we can try doing is we'll just say result is equal to agent prompt, and instead of printing the prompt we'll print the result. Okay, let's see if it works. Yeah, so we got an error instantly, right? It's saying it's none, because what happens is initially the prompt is going to be none, right? So it will not have anything unless we type something, right? So better what we do is here we just put an if block, so if prompt, and then we're just going to put the colon as well. So which means that only when prompt is not none, whatever is inside this if block is going to run. So put a colon here as well, and move this complete block inside this, just indent it. So this time only when prompt is not none, the rest of the code is going to work, so we may not get this error anymore. So save. Okay, now let's go back and type something, test message. So we got the test message here, and yeah, the response came back, but there was a slight delay because the agent had to process it, right? Let's try one more message, tell me a joke. Yeah, this is also working, but there's one problem, right? The old message is not there anymore. So initially we asked it test message, we sent test message, and we got a response back. So we're not able to see that message, we're only seeing the recent message that we typed. So it will be good to have the recent session history, right, for which we need to initialize the Streamlit session state. Yeah, so let's go ahead and initialize that first. So here I'll just initialize it. So I'm just going to say if messages not in st.session state, which means that this st.session state is going to have I'm going to have multiple keys. It's like a dictionary, right? So I'm just going to initialize this messages key inside this st.session state. Okay, if it is not there, I'm just going to initialize this and put an empty array to that. st.session state messages is equal to empty array. So right now it is not having any messages. So as and when we get some message from the user, that message has to be appended, and as and when we get some message from the assistant, even that has to be appended, right? For which I'll just get into this if block, and I'll just put one more array, messages is equal to empty, and here I'll just append it. So messages is going to be I'll just append it. I need to append the user message, and the user message is going to be like this, right? We'll make it a dictionary so that we differentiate between the user message and the assistant message, for which I'll be using a key called role. So this role is going to be user, and after that we have the content. So the content is nothing but the prompt in this case, because for the user whatever is typed as the prompt is going to appear as it is, so the prompt. Okay, this is done. The same way what we'll do is we'll go to the next assistant with block, and inside that with block we will be appending the same thing, but there's a small change. The role is going to be assistant and the content is going to be the result in this case. So we're capturing the history, meaning in this session all the messages are actually getting added to the st.session state, and inside the session state there's going to be a messages key inside which all of these messages are going to be added. Now we also need to render it, right? So for rendering, before this if block, what I'll just do is I will loop through the messages. So I'll have to just say for message in these messages, right? st.session state messages. So whatever I have here, all the messages, I'll have to just loop through them and I'll have to just render them. So I'll have to just use this block, right? So with st.chat message like this, but the role is going to be different. In each message, the role is either going to be user or assistant, which we can capture from the message itself, for which we'll have two more variables, like role is equal to, it comes from the message in each iteration, so message role, and then we have the content, that is going to be message content, right? So role is captured, message is also captured. Now within this, we just need to put the role dynamically. Instead of saying role user assistant, we're just going to get from there, and within this block we need to print it using the st.markdown method, st.markdown. And what is going to be rendered? Nothing but the content, right? So the content, and this content is going to be prompt in the case of user, and it's going to be result in the case of assistant. So that's it. I'll just explain it once again. So what we are trying to achieve here is, we didn't have the message history, right? For which, in order to store the message history, we are going to initialize the session state, the st.session state, which is the way of handling session in Streamlit. So we are going to initialize one key inside it, and we just name it as messages with an empty array. And each time the user sends a message, that message is going to be appended with the role user, and each time the assistant is going to render a response back, that message is also going to be added to the same array, same session state messages, but with the role assistant. So the session keeps on increasing, right, after each iteration, after each response. Then what we are going to do is, we will be iterating through the messages, get the role, get the content, and we just render it. So all the previous messages will appear when the session reruns. These messages needs to get into the session state messages, right? So here I can just say st.session state in brackets messages. I just need to add both of this, right, which will appear in the messages. So I'll just say plus is equal to messages. Simple. I could also directly append it, right? I can also append st.session state messages here as well as here, right? So that is also one way of doing it, but anyways, fine. So let's try now. Let's go to the browser and let's try a message. Tell me about oranges in a single line. Let's try one more. Tell me about grapes in a single line. Okay, so the chat history is persisted, right? We're able to see it. So even if you go ahead and rerun it here, that is still there. Let's try something big. Tell me about oranges. So this is going to be a bigger paragraph. We are not saying it has to be a single line or not. Let's see what we get. So this is a big response. But one thing, if you notice, everything got printed as one instead of streaming. So that is what we are going to look next. We'll try to stream the output rather than printing everything at once. So for that, we'll do a couple of changes. The first thing is, here, instead of just saying agent prompt, what I'll better do is, I'll just say stream is equal to agent dot stream async prompt. Okay, so this is one change. So it is going to be a stream now, and here instead of agent prompt, I'll just make the result as an empty string for now. Okay, now we get a streamed output, and the stream is going to have a lot of chunks or events, so we can iterate through that. So for chunk in stream, and each chunk is going to have certain keys. We're going to look for a specific key called data. So if data in chunk, what we do, we just need to get this data and add it to the result. Okay, so which means result is an empty data right now, empty string right now, and slowly after each iteration it takes data from that particular chunk and adds to the result. So finally it becomes that complete result. So result plus is equal to chunk data. So slowly what happens, the result is going to be pretty much similar only. There's not going to be any difference in this case. Let's try it once. I don't need this here, right? I'll take this off. Okay, because inside the assistant block I only need the result, and here I need the prompt. Okay, save. So let's go back. Yeah, since there was a prompt earlier, it was actually printing the prompt also. We just removed it now, so that shouldn't be a problem anymore. Okay, tell me about grapes. Something is wrong, right? Yeah, I forgot. Actually, this is stream async, so this has to be async for. It's not a straight for. Okay, async for. And there's one more change that we need to make. Since this is an async for block, we have to wrap everything inside an async function, for which we can use async def main at the top. So async def main, and the complete program can be indented and be put inside this function. Okay, done. And we just need to call this main function with async io, async io dot run main, and we need to import this. Import async io. All done. So let's see if this is okay for now. Let's try again. Tell me about grapes. Okay, we got the response back, but still the result is same, right? As in, even though it's streamed, the result was actually printed at once. Didn't have any typewriting effect, meaning it just printed everything in once. Now we are going to put a small typewriting effect to that, so that as in when the data comes, it also gets printed. Let's see how to do that. Let's see where the result is getting captured. So this is where it is, right? So result is equal to empty, and then result is actually getting added. Now what we'll do is, instead of rendering the result at once, we'll render the result as it comes. Okay, for which we need to initialize an empty object. So here I'll just put placeholder is equal to st dot empty, and this is going to be updated in each iteration. So just copy this from here, take it and put this inside the if block like this, and instead of st we'll be using placeholder, because it's the same object which gets updated. Placeholder dot markdown result. Let's try now. Okay, this time what do we say? We can ask it to maybe tell about the solar system. Tell me about the solar system. Okay, better. So this is what I meant. Let's say we want to put some delay after each chunk. After each chunk is actually getting printed, we can also do that, for which we just need to import the time package. So import time, and for each iteration after the chunk is actually getting printed, we just put time dot sleep and some number 0.05 for example. So it's the number of seconds as it says here. Okay, sleep and then the seconds. So just a recap of what we have done. We just put that outline, the chat interface with the title widget, and then we have used the chat input box, and we rendered the user messages and the assistant messages. The role is going to be different for user and assistant, and we also had like two different built-in icons that are given by Streamlit. And then we have used the st.markdown method to actually render the message, to print the message on the chat interface. We can also use st.write as well. In order to capture the chat history, we have used the st.session state, and we have used a specific key called messages. So instead of printing the complete result that is actually coming from the LLM as one single output, we try to stream it as well. So that's it for this video. Hope it was helpful, and thank you for watching.